If you have been putting off or putting to the side that one thing that you've really been wanting to do because you think it's too late or it's out of your realm or you don't have the skill set yet, this is your sign to go after it. All you need to have what it takes is the ability and the willingness to learn.
From To Be Magnetic, this is the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips.
And your host, Jessica Gill.
As the leading destination for neural manifestation, we dispel the woo-woo in order to help you create real, tangible results based on neuroplasticity, psychology, epigenetics, and energetics. Our goal is to normalize the practice of manifestation and empower you to get into the driver's seat of your life in order to manifest the experiences, relationships, and things that most align with your authenticity. And by pressing play, the process begins.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Expanded. Jessica here. I wanted to kick off today before we jump in with something to just calm our nervous system, help us to drop into the present moment. Oftentimes when people have a hard time connecting with expanders, which you're going to hear a lot of on today's episode, it's because our inner child parts are in the way. They're in the driver's seat. It's our dysregulated nervous system. It's the part of us that's defensive or judgmental or envious that we can't actually soak in why the universe dropped this expander in front of us and how to see or utilize them as an expander. So if you're ever having a hard time finding expanders, connecting to expanders, witnessing the expanders that may be around you, try to work on your nervous system. We have the fight or flight DI, the freeze or fawn DI, but we're just going to do a quick exercise today. So wherever you are, take a deep breath in. Breathe in through the nose, filling up your chest, your stomach. Hold at the top and then let a deep exhale out. And do this again, but as you breathe in, pull that energy up with your arms and kind of like lift them over your head. So breathe in, lifting up your arms, get them to the top, and then drop your arms at your side with an exhale. And again, deep inhale. And then releasing with a big sigh. And I like to rub my hands side to side. So if you're kind of like placing the palms of your hands together in front of you, maybe even at your heart center, you can start by rubbing them side to side, generate some heat. There is so much healing energy and potential in our hands. It is a spot that a lot of intuitive healers are gifted in. So see what power and magnetism you can generate just by moving your hands side to side. And then feel that buzz, that energy that you created. And just feel what it feels like, the sensations, the tingling. And one more deep breath in. And exhale. Okay. So we have seen a lot of transformation in the last, I would say even the last 2-3 months with this community. We have been getting endless, boundless testimonials of shifts and changes that has transpired for all of you, especially since our summer challenge. And I know a lot of you also are still working on connecting to your manifestation. And I just want to remind you that, we write on our manifestation list, it can take 6, I say even to 12 months, especially for those major manifestations. You are overriding old neural pathways. You are expanding into new neural pathways. You are now taking brand new action, clearing space, all of those things, following the pings. That process takes time. And on top of that, there is divine timing. Things come into play in your life at the perfect time for your highest good. That is what I believe. So if your manifestation hasn't dropped in yet, do not worry. This will give you some expansion in the episode today, and it will help drop you into a state of surrender, of knowing, wow, if these people can do this, if these shifts can happen for them, they can happen for me. It is so possible. So we're going to go through a couple of testimonials today, and I'm going to break down the biggest takeaways that you need to know in order to apply it to your own personal manifestation process. Okay, let's dive in.
And now, a word from our partners.
If you have not heard of Arma colostrum, let me tell you why it has quickly become my absolute favorite superfood that I've been taking on a daily basis. Arma is an unrivaled nutrient powerhouse. It has 400 plus pure bioactives that are natural molecules that promote healthy function throughout the body. They include a host of protective antibodies, prebiotic compounds, strengthening peptides, amino acids, trace minerals, immunoglobulins, tissue growth factors, antioxidants, and other natural immune factors that work synergistically to enhance your health. This superfood is actually the first piece of nutrients that we receive, that all mammals receive from their mothers within 48 to 72 hours after giving birth. It is that nutrient-dense supplement to really help our bodies thrive, function, and grow to the best of our abilities. There are 5,000 plus studies on this stuff that really show at any age, taking and ingesting colostrum can help our bodies function on the highest level. Now, I started taking this over the summer and pretty much noticed results immediately. Bloating went down, digestion got better, and my immunity seemed to be a lot stronger. I would come across people with colds or sicknesses thinking I'd be coming down with it in a few days, and it seemed to have really supported my innate immune system. It is completely sustainably sourced from a family-owned dairy farm. They only use the surplus of colostrum, and they're able to remove any unnecessary compounds from the colostrum, like casein and fat, which is part of the reason that some dairy can be inflammatory to some people. I'm someone that's very sensitive to dairy, and anytime I have real dairy, I always wind up taking a lactate, but using colostrum, I've never had any issue with it at all. And in fact, it seems to protect me just as well as the dairy pill against some of the dairy that I eat. And part of the reason that that is happening and why I feel like it's been so effective is because it's helping to rebuild your barriers. We talk about having a really strong barrier protection in the lining of our mouth, our sinuses, our lungs, our gut. Our barriers house 80% of our immune system. It's the first line of defense against everything that we inhale and ingest from the outside world. So when you take Arma close to eating, inflammatory foods or being in an atmosphere where the air quality isn't as optimal, your barriers are tightening to help protect you from everything else going on. So this is one of my absolute favorite superfood products out there on the market. I think it is fantastic. I really see results from it. Feel free to ask me questions if you're curious about it. And we have a discount code for you guys. You can use the code TBM for 15% your first order. Again, that is code TBM for 15% off. And if you're interested, you can get the subscription. That way you won't ever run out and you can always have that immune support.
All right, on to the episode.
Hi, my name is Jane, and I'm a musician from Austin, Texas. And this work has truly transformed my life in a matter of months. I can confidently say that at the end of this challenge, I'm legitimately a different person, and things that have plagued me my entire life about myself are no longer an issue. So I went into the challenge because I was so frustrated with myself and my procrastination and could not figure out why I would want to do something so badly, but then I would sometimes hit these freeze states in a moment of overwhelm and not be able to show up for myself in the way I wanted and just kind of shut down.
Okay, I want to stop in there. This is such a common thing. If you are someone who identifies with wanting something so badly, being like, I am very clear on my aligned action, but I cannot get myself to take the action. I faced this earlier this year. I talk about it in my little process episode that I had earlier this summer. oftentimes when we cannot step through and get ourselves to do the thing, it is usually a nervous system response. A nervous system response to fear, to unknown, to anxiety, or maybe just from our day-to-day stressors that we physically do not have the energy and our body just shuts down. So that is why I highly, highly, highly recommend the freeze DI for this. If your body just feels so exhausted, tired, yes, make sure you're sleeping. Yes, make sure you're nourishing it. But if it is that nervous system movement and momentum, freeze DI can help snap you out of it and create movement, energy, like we were doing the top of this episode with the hand exercise. It creates frenetic energy within your body so you can go and take that motion. Hot tip.
I ended up discovering in one of the first DIs that somewhere along the way, I learned that when I showed up really big and brightly as a performer and just in every aspect of my life, that sometimes that intimidated people or scared them and caused me to think that they didn't like me or whatever. So I learned it was much safer to play it very small. When I was being asked to really step into a bigger version of myself, my inner child would be very scared by that. But I can confidently say after so much work through the 5-week challenge and in the money course, I have unpacked so much and I am showing up so differently every single day. And I feel so much lighter and happier. And I know that I am a giant. I am truly thinking every day that I am a giant and it is okay to show up big. And I am showing up big and I am tackling things and having conversations and reaching out to people that I never would have had the courage to do before. So far, in just a matter of months, I have found a new way to make money that does not make me feel in low self-worth. I have been offered a sync and licensing deal, which I was really manifesting as a way to make money with my music. I am being paid to go to Italy and write with other musicians there and perform in Florence. And it's absolutely so perfect because it's exactly where my husband and I were wanting to go on our honeymoon and we haven't been able to afford it. And so now we will be able to go at the end of this trip. It's absolutely just a dream come true in so many ways, like so many specific ways, even down to the estate that I get to stay on is like almost directly what I envisioned my magnetic self standing in one of the DIs. We just got a fall tour offer, which is something we really, really were wanting. There are literally things flying at me in every way, but I have been so tested in the last few months. The tests that have come in, and I've really used this program to be able to use those test questions and see if this is something that was right for me or not. And because it like crossed a boundary and made me feel low self-worth, I said no to those things. And then I watched better opportunities and better ideas come my way. I really can't even begin to explain how much this has transformed me to my core. And every day I show up for myself. I no longer procrastinate. That is not something I identify with at all anymore. I wake up excited about the opportunity to face new challenges. And I cannot wait to see what else I can manifest, to see the other work I can do. I'm currently now going through the shadow and I want to go through how to manifest because I'm already manifesting and I don't even know the exact way to manifest yet. So yeah, I guess the only advice I'd have for other people is to go all in. This work is so transformative. If you can see it, you can do it. I truly am seeing that in my life in every aspect. So thank you so much for everything you have given the community. I am here to tell you that my life is just literally on a different path now because of this work. And I am going to make money as a full-time musician because of it. So I can't wait to update you guys on the more beautiful things that are inevitably coming my way because I now know I am a giant and I show up so big for myself every day. So thank you.
I got teary-eyed listening to her testimonial because I think it is so powerful to hear even audibly in your voices this sensation of empowerment. And that's why we're doing this expander episode today too, because I really want you to hear from people who were at those tough places, were at those pivotal fork in the road moments, have faced many tests and are able to transform on the other side. And I love the opposite is the medicine here. This is one of the biggest things. When you are faced with a test, when you are faced with an opportunity to maybe settle for an old way you would have acted before or responded before, how can you do the opposite? And in week 4 and week 5 of our summer challenge, it is having you look at what are the actions you take that help to reinforce that low self-worth, that limiting belief, and what are the actions that you can take that are in the opposite direction towards your empowering belief. So for this person, they were playing small. They were keeping themselves small. They were avoiding taking action. They weren't going after the things they wanted. And her opposite to that is, I am a giant. It is actually completely safe for me to take up space. I think that's such a common one, and it runs so deep because oftentimes, and we've seen it in society, when someone stands big, other people bat them down. When someone's too confident, they might be bullied by their peers. Someone else's shadow may rear, and you're likely going to get that test. If you are someone who thought it wasn't okay for you to shine, when you start shining, people are going to poke holes, push you down, etc. That's not a sign for you to play small again. That is a sign to say, okay, I might not be for everyone. I might not be getting this perfect, but I need to keep going. I need to keep shining. I am a giant. I love that one so much.
Hi, TBM. I did the summer challenge, and this has been one of the most impactful challenges I've ever done in my 3 years of being at TBM. I was in quite a rock bottom when I first started this challenge, just gotten out of a relationship, just got back from traveling, and thus was living with my family. Didn't really know what I was going to do next for work, didn't have any income coming in, although I had a little bit of savings. I was manifesting clarity around my business, more self-worth, and just feeling more at ease within myself and like I belonged, and some soul-aligned friendships in the new area that I was living in. My biggest block that I took through was the block of I don't belong, which throughout the challenge I realized some of the deeper roots to that were I'm not enough and I don't matter. The DIs that helped me the most were the beliefs reinforcing DI and the regulating. Learning how to regulate my nervous system has been probably the biggest game changer for me in just being able to get back to this place of self-worth. When I'm very dysregulated, it's easier for me to slip back into old patterns, old beliefs. So regulating has been huge.
Okay, I want to pause there. When I'm dysregulated, it's easier for me to slip back into old patterns, old beliefs. So regulating has been huge. I want you to think about the last challenge you faced, the last test or trigger that came up. Did you go into a state of dysregulation? Did you go into fight, flight, freeze, fawn? And then what beliefs did you immediately attach about yourself after that test or trigger? I think this is so key to think about, because oftentimes in the moment when we're faced with that challenge, we become dysregulated, and it's really easy to then settle, to create that negative internal self-talk again, or to go back to that old belief. So in this person's case, they think, okay, I don't belong. So if they're faced with a test or a trigger that might be pressing upon that wound, like, hey, this situation happened, are you going to view it from the lens that you don't belong? Or are you going to view it from the lens that you do belong and you are worthy and deserving enough to be there? And if that person doesn't see it, well, then that's actually a test to not interact with them, not something you need to change about yourself. So the key here, and we talked about this in the last example, regulation. When you are facing a test and trigger, can you go back to a state of regulation before you start picking apart what that test or trigger means, before you start thinking things about yourself or self-criticizing? It happens so fast that inner child wounding just pops in the driver's seat to protect us from shame. It immediately comes in when we're tested or triggered, especially tested or triggered around things that are a core wound for us. So can you just first get back to a state of regulation and then assess what that dynamic means?
And so as far as what I've manifested after the challenge, I found some clarity on what I wanted to do for business. And the challenge really gave me the courage to ask myself, if I could do anything, what would I do, even if I don't believe that it's possible for me in certain ways? And I landed on becoming a videographer as something that I've always wanted to do. So I found clarity around that, started doing some free projects to build my portfolio, and had some really great experiences with that. Manifested going to Alaska and staying there for free to work on some projects there. I've manifested a couple of soul friendships through TBM, actually, which has been really amazing. Hosted a mini meetup in my town and have met and connected with like 10 to 15 other women in my area. So that's been really amazing. Yeah, and a bunch of different income portals have just come in to support me on going to Alaska and just allowing this time of creativity. And overall, I just have a new lightness. Oh, and one of the biggest things also is I manifested the ability to set a boundary with my ex that I wouldn't have been able to set in the past, where I basically told him that I couldn't talk to him anymore. I needed no contact, even though he wanted to be like really good friends. And that was really hard for me. But on the other side of that, I feel so grounded, so in my worth. And I just can't thank TBM enough for helping me to do that. Thanks.
Oh, I'm so excited for this person. One other thing I want to highlight about this is, so if you remember, this person's wound that they were working on was, I don't belong. I'm not good enough. And so you can see how if you feel like you don't belong, you're not good enough, those are the threads that are going in, how it would be really hard to figure out what career path lights you up. Because there is a part of you that's going to come on board and be like, don't do that. You don't belong there. That's not what you're meant to do. Who are you to do that? That negative, nagging, limited, small voice that is there to protect you from feeling shame pops up and literally blocks you from even getting the download or the ping of what you're supposed to do with your purpose. So if you are someone who is like, I know I'm supposed to do something else, I don't like the career I'm in, I don't know what it is, what is the limiting belief that might be in the way from even opening your mind to a possibility of something that you really wanted to do, or even to take one step towards one thing that might light you up? It might not be the end all be all, but can you allow yourself to want good things in your life, to want things to come through, to give yourself the grace to explore new terrain, new territory? The other thing that was huge with this is that she was finally able to go no contact with your ex. And again, with the belonging, if you feel like you don't belong, are you going to cut people out of your life? Probably not. You're going to keep them around because they are proving to you, well, I do belong, so I'm going to keep them around. Because if I push them away, what if no one else comes back? But as you heard, she manifested 10 to 15 new friends during this time, which is freaking amazing and huge. So as she's able to see, wow, I do belong. I just need to choose the situations and the places that I want to belong. I have the power now to make that. And when she did that, she was able to go no contact with the ex and say, nope, this is not a line for me anymore, and call in new found friendships. Congratulations.
Hi, TP Magnetic, all the way from England. I did the summer challenge and I started it with my biggest block of I am not capable of. I've always wanted to be in an all-female band. It's been triggering me for, if I'm completely honest, over 10 years whenever I see a woman in bands. And I always just thought I was too old. I'm 37 now and I just thought, I can't do it. I haven't got the guitar skills, even though I can play very basic guitar.
I want to pause here. I think this is such a good example of how what we are envious of, triggered by, feeling jealous towards, are such a highlight of where we are disconnected with self. And I want to remind anyone, because I know this belief system or this narrative can come up. Yeah, I know it's triggering. I know it's something I'm denying within myself, but I just don't believe it's possible for me. So I'm just going to sit with the discontent of not actually going for it. I want to remind you, the universe would not be making you feel envious, jealous, triggered, irritated by what your potential is if you didn't have the opportunity, the means, the capability of going after it. So next time you are feeling that envy, pop in the envy and jealousy DI, but then realize this envy is very divinely coming up for me to know that it is possible for me to have my own version of this. It would not be coming up if it wasn't possible. So just think about that the next time you're feeling envy. This envy is actually a nod from the universe saying, you're meant to do your own version of this. Go do it. Go do it.
I took this block through the summer challenge. I did some really deep diving on it. I worked through a lot of internal ageism. Fear of being seen was massive, and perfectionism. I stepped through the fear and I put up a poster in my local coffee shops, and I got a ping to put it on Facebook, which is strange because I do not use Facebook, and I had a lot of shadow around Facebook, which I had to unblock as well. Anyway, I got a bunch of messages from some incredible women, and I got a few tests as well to see if I was going to settle, because on my list of qualities for bandmates was real friendship, sisterhood, connection, fun, and creativity. So anyone who messaged me who didn't really align with that, or I met and I didn't align with them, I was absolutely fine with saying no. I really believed that I could have what I wanted. And I also found lots of expanders who are in bands who aren't that technically skilled, but have fun on stage. And the band Wet Leg were a huge expander for me because they learned guitar within a year. So I just kept practicing. I put my poster up, and then I got a message through last week from a band who have just formed, and they asked me to join them for a rehearsal. They've asked me to be the guitarist. So I'm now a guitarist in an all-female punk band, and it's all thanks to Be Magnetic. I hope this expands somebody. Thank you so much.
Take a moment right now. What is that one thing that is in the back of your mind that you've always wanted to do, but you have told yourself you're too old, it's too late, can't do it at your age, you don't know enough, you don't have the skills to do it, who am I to do it? I'm just not going to do it in this lifetime. What is that thing for you? Just take a moment right now as you're listening to this. It could be a small thing, a big thing. What is one thing that has pinged you in your life that you've always had a little bit of an inkling or interest or just desire to do, and you haven't taken any steps towards it, or very little steps towards it, and you think it's not possible for you? This expander just did that for herself within the last year using the TBM tools. Okay, in the last year. And her expanders were people who also taught themselves the skills they needed in order to pursue their goal in the last year. This is huge. So no matter what age you are, no matter what your dream is, you can accomplish it and you can actually take steps towards it. Had she not realized that she was capable of learning how to play guitar more, would she be practicing as often? No. She would just be thinking about practicing and not taking any action. And when we can reframe our mind that actually I'm capable of learning this, I'm capable of finding expanders, I'm capable of putting this together no matter what age I am, things start to transpire. So if you have been putting off or putting to the side that one thing that you've really been wanting to do because you think it's too late or it's out of your realm or you don't have the skill set yet, this is your sign to go after it. One of the number one questions I get asked is about my hair, and good hair starts with good scalp health. That is why I am obsessed with Act and Acres all natural cold pressed products for your hair and scalp. Your scalp has a microbiome just like your gut. So when it's out of balance, it impacts your hair health, which can lead to thinning hair, an oily scalp, flakes, dandruff, or even hair loss. So when it comes to having the best hair of your life, it truly starts at the scalp. And one of my new favorite products from them is their Daily Hydro Scalp Serum. It's the perfect product for anyone who's new into scalp care health. You can think about it like a scalp moisturizer. You wouldn't go a day without leaving moisturizer on your face, so why would you do the same with your scalp? This creates that protective barrier around your scalp, utilizing its lightweight, fast-absorbing formula to stay on. It's not something you need to wash off. You can do it after you shower, when your hair is wet, or when it's dry. Just kind of rub it in and allow it to saturate your entire scalp to keep it moisturized, healthy, and protecting that microbiome with amino acids to boost the shaft strength and barrier as your hair is growing. You can also use this in combination with any of their other serums. So I like to use the Scalp Renew before I shower. It helps remove any impurities and adds vitamins and minerals directly into the shaft of my hair. If you are interested in trying out any of Acton Acre's products, or you want to take their scalp quiz to understand what your hair type is and what products would be best for it, go to their website, actonacre.com. That's ACTANDACRE.com. And you can use the code TBM20 for 20% off. Again, that's code TBM20 for 20% off. Check the link in the show note. We can direct you right there, or go to actonacre.com.
So I've been a TBM member since January or December 2022. I live in London and I've manifested lots already along the way. I actually changed my whole career. I was a primary school teacher for 5 years, and then after doing TBM, I realised that that was no longer aligned. So I manifested my bridge job, which I'm about to leave now and take the plunge into my own business, which is I've now become a qualified life coach. And that journey was crazy because I actually went into sales, and I feel like all those skills I've learned in marketing and sales are now really going to help me in my new business. So even though I didn't know it was a bridge job at the time, it definitely was. So that was one of the big things I've manifested. But in terms of the most recent challenge, the block that I took through was not being good enough. And that block has plagued me. I'm 29, so for the last 29 years. And digging into this challenge, I realized that it was actually showing up in so many different areas of my life, whether it was my friendships, whether it was my relationship, whether it was my career, whether it was my family. Literally every aspect of my life, I could find that block of I'm not good enough. And the first thing was just having awareness of it so many times that it came up in my head throughout the day of, oh, that's the block. I'm not good enough. And one of the things I did, obviously I did all the DIs and I did the challenge, but that reframe of changing I'm not good enough to the simple reframe of even when I'm doing nothing, I'm more than good enough, because one of the ways that it was playing out for me was constantly having to be productive, constantly having to be doing something, constantly having to be trying something new, endless spinning plates, basically. So that reframe was massive for me. And I've noticed that my friendships feel closer. I'm putting myself out there a lot more. So I've manifested closer friendships, which has been on my list for ages. And then two of the big things I had on my list for this year was to have an amazing hen do, because I got married 2 weeks ago. And I literally wrote down what I wanted that hen do to be like in terms of the vibe and the energy and the feeling, as well as like the location and what I pictured us doing. And that came through down to a T. I literally manifested everything I wrote down for that hen do. And then the second big one that I wanted to manifest was my dream wedding. After doing this challenge, everyone says they have the best wedding ever, but an example of how much it was my dream wedding is there wasn't one hiccup, literally not one hiccup, but also I'd written down the detail that I saw my wedding, how I wanted it to be. And one of the things was the weather. So I wanted the weather to be around 23 degrees. So it wasn't too hot, so grandparents and things could enjoy the day. And I wanted it to be sunny, but also not too sunny, a bit cloudy. Again, so it wasn't too hot, and then no wind. Because the venue we chose, we're in England, so the weather is very, very temperamental, even in summer. And the venue we chose, you could either have the ceremony outside or inside. And when I'd seen the ceremony that you could have outside and the venue with it all set up outside, that was literally my dream. So as I was sort of working through this block, that's what I was manifesting towards, or like wanting to come through. And it was to the point that I'd written down that weather. The weather before, in the weeks before, had kept changing, storms, rain, the lot. And literally the weather on the day was 23 degrees exactly, sun with some clouds and no breeze. I just couldn't believe it. I kept telling everyone, and I could tell people were looking at me thinking, yeah, so what, that's a coincidence. But I just knew the fact that it was 23 degrees on the dot, I just knew. And ever since that block, I just feel like I'm so much more in control of it, and I'm aware of it. And every time it comes up, I know exactly what's happening. And I just feel like a new person. So this challenge, although I wanted to, obviously the focus was on the block and working through that, I do think that alongside the wedding and everything all just came together for me. So yeah, huge thanks to TBM. I tell everyone I know about it and I'm obsessed.
I really love this one because it's a block that I think is arguably one of the most, if not the most common block. I'm not good enough. It roots down to this feeling of, I need to protect myself in some way, shape, or form. I need to hide myself, be small. I can't even ask for what I want. Playing small in general. And I love how she said that it persisted in so many different levels in her life. And I think sometimes the power of navigating our blocks is to call to attention, call to the forefront in our mind how often we default to that block. So once she realized, wow, this is actually the thing that's running the show behind the scenes, this is a belief system that's running the show, she could call out and see, wow, it's happening in friendship. Oh my gosh, that's what I took away here. This is what's happening in this dynamic. And so when she can go through, reprogram, attune to the inner child, and actually reinforce that new belief, and then being able to reframe it to, I love how she said, even when I'm doing nothing, I'm more than good enough. So that was able to be her opposite is the medicine in this dynamic, that when she had those moments come up, it's like, no, let me reattune you, reprogram you, rewire you to this new belief system that you are more than enough. And I really love that the universe used this example, this sensation, this feeling of her perfect wedding day, because she's more than enough to have her dream day. She literally felt the sensation of what felt so authentic and dreamy and perfect to her, and the universe delivered to a T. And yeah, I love how she also said the friend thought it was, or the friends were saying, oh, it's a coincidence. But you know when the universe is speaking directly to you through those moments. And the whole purpose, the whole point of those moments where it's like, it's meeting you exactly in a way that you know it was designed to meet you, to get your attention, is to remind you that you're on the right path, you're moving in that right direction. And in her case, it's reminding her that she's more than good enough to have those days. So such a good one.
Hey, so this challenge was amazing. I, long short, joined TBM a couple years ago and just wasn't in a place to do it. So I finally joined the challenge a little bit late this summer and really resonated when Lacey talked on one of the podcasts about just going all in. So I did. And on my manifestation list was from mini to macro things like sunglasses, which was actually the first manifestation that came in, a new wardrobe. It was a trip somewhere in the Caribbean, somewhere warm for free, and $10,000 a month from my intuitive coaching business. My biggest block is I'm not worthy and I'm not deserving. So that was pretty big to work through. Just doing those DIs, and the validation DI was really great. That unblocking one was really helpful. You know, I think my biggest breakthrough was shifting that belief to a new empowering belief and really seeing where that came from, where that I'm not deserving belief originated, and just seeing how good things have come to me in my life, but I've pushed them away, like whether it's just from my nervous system not having the capacity to hold good, but also from just not believing that I'm worth what everybody else is worth. I remember as a child just peering out the window at the neighbors who just had things that I wanted, but more specifically, like a happy home life. And that's where I picked up that belief that like, I'm not worth those things. Everybody else can have it, but I can't.
Oof. I just want to like sit with this one for a second here. This is such a key part of the unblocking process, right? It's getting to like, what was that narrative? What were those moments that you remember really feeling that belief become implanted? And so many times for kids, they think in black and white. As your adult self, you wouldn't connect those dots. You wouldn't see another kid having an amazing home life and think, well, oh, I don't have one because it's my fault. I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving of that. You would think, wow, that's really beautiful. I wonder how they cultivated that. Like maybe we could try some of those things. You know, whatever the things are, you could get creative with it. But as an adult, you can understand nuance. Kids have a lot of difficulty understanding nuance and really aren't capable of understanding it until their brains develop to a certain age. So think about what your inner child not understanding the nuance and seeing things as very black and white, very direct, may have picked up around this belief system. And it was such beautiful self-awareness that she noted how much she actually pushed away things that came to her. It wasn't that things didn't work out or she wasn't inherently undeserving of them, because they did come through. But because of that belief, she wasn't able to recognize that she was actually deserving and she could let them come in, and thus self-sabotage started popping up. So think about in your life, are there places where you are having difficulty allowing the good in? Are you having difficulty allowing the beauty or the abundance or the opportunities into your life because there's that wall, there's that defense mechanism that's saying, ooh, if I let this in, that is completely opposite to the belief system that I'm not deserving. And can you, when regulating your nervous system, allowing your nervous system to say like, okay, this is really scary to allow myself to accept this, but I'm going to try. That's the fear you need to step through, is allowing yourself to have the good come in.
So I have been housing for a friend, and the biggest test that came through was she wanted to start charging me to house sit for her dogs. So she wanted me to start, it was a long-term house gig. And she originally said she would obviously take care of the dogs' food and all that stuff, and she would continue paying rent. I would just be staying there with the dogs. Then she came back to me with, I'm going to actually need you to start paying utilities. And then it was, I'm going to need you to start paying utilities and rent. And this was tricky for me because I didn't have a place of my own to go to. I sort of house sit as a nomad right now. And I also don't have a ton of money. And I had just gotten rid of my car because she told me I could use her car. So it was a no for me though. I was like, that's a no. That's an absolute no. So I told her, I'm not going to pay your rent. I'm not going to pay your utilities while I also care for your dogs. So I did that. And she originally gave me 6 weeks to be out. And then when I set that boundary, she gave me 3 weeks to be out. And so I worked through a lot of terror of just, I have nowhere to go. I don't know what's going to happen. And literally, I'm voice texting this to you on a Tuesday. This past Sunday is when I got her email that I had 3 weeks to be out. I spent pretty much all of Sunday regulating my nervous system. And then Monday morning, I get an email from a woman who takes my writing workshops. And she says, she has a house in Montauk and a house in Costa Rica. And she said, how do you feel about Costa Rica? She said, we have a mountain home and a cabin for writing and a car you can use. And we're not there right now. Do you want to come stay for 3 months? I was like, holy crap. So I was telling my friend this last night. She said, what was on your manifestation list? I said, let me go look in my journal. And wouldn't you know, it was a free place to stay in the Caribbean. So all I can say is this works. This work works. So thank you for this challenge. Thank you for the chance to share my story. I am just kind of blown away by this whole process and excited by it and excited about shifting out of low self-worth and into a life that I actually want to live. So thank you for this work. Thank you for letting me share. And thanks for all this.
Standing strong and saying no to those tests. Such a tricky, hard situation, and even harder to say no when your needs are on the line. I love how she handled this test. She sat there and realized, no, this is not the dynamic I want to have for house sitting. This is not how I want to go about navigating my life in this way. I need my needs to be taken care of. I am taking care of someone's home in exchange for staying there. That is what feels good and nourishing to me. To then pay on top of it does not. I think the biggest takeaway in this one is how powerful turning something down that is not aligned for us is, and allowing what is aligned for us to come through. When you are very clear on what you want and what you will not settle for, and what is aligned for your needs to feel deserving of having your needs met. When you say that empowered no, it might shake you up for a second. You might have to detach from the outcome, especially if you were like, wow, I was so excited to stay here and all these things are going to come through. But detach from the outcome. That's why I love the worst case scenario DI, because it helps you realize you may have been thinking, oh, this is the only thing that can support me. When in reality, there are so many opportunities that you can't even wrap your mind around that could be supporting you in different ways. So can you release the attachment to that one opportunity, regulate your nervous system, process that test and that trigger, keep that empowered no, do not settle, and watch what comes through on the other side.
Hey, TBM friends. Hello. I just wanted to share some of the giant steps that I've taken over the past several weeks through this summer challenge. My name is Benjamin J. Thomas. I'm a singer, songwriter, and producer. I also have helped lead spiritual and healing community stuff for a long time. At this moment, I'm in this really challenging season income-wise and have been seeking to manifest new income portals that really leverage my skills and my experience. But I've felt so stuck in this place of low self-worth for quite a while now. Just a ton of BS stories about all the wrong choices I've made in life and that it's too late for me. And finally starting to identify, though, and unravel some of the limiting beliefs, those subconscious limiting beliefs that have kept me from taking action. Mainly this deeply held belief that I'm not good enough or I'm not big enough. I grew up as like a small kid and a small-bodied person. And so that's just been so deep in me. And it's created all sorts of tendencies in life that have kept me blocked, like hiding who I authentically am, trying to be what I think other people want me to be, all that stuff, or getting stuck in perfectionistic tendencies and loops. Through this process, though, doing this work, connecting with my inner child from a place of compassion and openness has given me this license to follow my curiosity, release my perfectionistic tendencies, and then just start doing shit, experimenting and taking action. And one of those action steps has been to launch a practice that I'm calling song coaching. And the whole concept came together to me in this really magical way one night, right after doing a DI and experiencing a great deal of unblocking and really just tapping into my most authentic self, which I've named Big Ben, right? Big Ben's connected to the bigness and my high self-worth. And this whole idea of song coaching, which is this term I came up with, is kind of this modality of healing and transformation through the act of creating, of bringing songs into existence.
Another one with I'm not enough and stepping into the bigness. I'm a giant, Big Ben. I'm noticing theme here, guys. We need to step into our full self, our full expression of self. No matter what your body looks like, the bigness of your aura, the bigness of your heart, the bigness of your insides. Can you let that bigness shine? And it's so powerful too, because with this person, with Ben's story, in his voice, I'm like, he's got the bigness. Like he's just commanding with his voice. I think this is so powerful because it is transforming that block of not enoughness. And what is the opposite to you of the not enoughness? Is that bigness? Is that allowing your heart to be seen? And the other thing I want to point out, he got clarity on what his next part of career and purpose was supposed to lead into after attuning to that inner child, after giving compassion for the parts of self that felt that he needed to play small for a good chunk of his life. So when you can attune to your inner child, it almost like unlocks space. It clears the filter for the pings, the intuition, and guidance to come back online.
And so through this whole song coaching thing, my idea was, I just felt this in my gut. I was like, I want to help people connect with their inner song, which I see as connected to and part of their most authentic selves. So the whole thing really, it's like aligned with my authenticity. It sits right in this beautiful intersection of creativity and spirituality that just totally has been lighting me up right now. And since putting that offer out into the world really recently, I've started working with a few clients already. I got to be interviewed as a guest on a podcast. I'm getting all these just tons and tons of pings of new ways to implement this practice and incorporate it into other things I'm doing. And I have no idea where all this leads, but what I do know is that right now I'm doing my best to remain playful with it all. And I'm so, so grateful for the work of TBM that's helped me to unlock this new expression of myself, and more importantly, has given me tools to do it from a place of high self-worth that I really have not been able to access yet in life. You can feel the energy, right? So where I'm at today, I'm still waiting for like a full steady income stream to manifest through this and through the growth of my songwriting and production and all of that. But every single day I feel it. I'm growing more confident that manifestation is on the way. And in the process of doing so, I feel like I'm strengthening that muscle of connection with my most authentic self. Big Ben, right? Because I need to be able to do the work that I'm doing. So for anyone listening to this, I'd just offer a word of encouragement to be patient and kind and so compassionate to yourself every moment through this process, and to do your best to put yourself in places and situations and create habits where you have to go in and listen to that still small voice, your most authentic self. Whether it's something you're doing, like creating something new or building or growing something. Anyhow, again, so grateful for the TBM community and this work. There's just the transformation that is happening. I can feel the love and energy and support of this community as I'm in the middle of transforming myself. All right, peace and light. Take care.
I'm so proud of you, Ben. This is incredible. So as you can see with Ben's story, the second that he decided to listen to these pings, to create space, to create healing internally, he started getting pings and then took the aligned action. And he's already starting to grab clients, be on podcasts, now get featured and expanded. I mean, that's sort of the work of it, right? And these are the moments that you have to bolster that trust muscle. So many people are like, yeah, some things are coming through, but the big manifestation isn't here yet. But if you're not seeing how the universe is already starting to work with you, can you trust? Can you see us helping you grow and evolve over time? So when it's that moment for that big thing to take over, it's going to come into your life with ease. It's not going to lift you up and create a sense of self-worth if you don't have one for yourself. You have to work together with the universe in order to get there. And that's exactly what Ben is doing. So if anyone wants to work with Ben musically, you know who to reach out to.
By now, you're starting to get the feel for TBM. Maybe you've heard about our workshops and you're interested in manifestation, but you just don't have the time or energy to sit down and do self-help work. We totally get it. In fact, that's why we created the Daily Practice, which is our massive library of self-hypnosis tracks that you can do anytime without having to jump into a workshop. We call these tracks our Deep Imaginings, or DIs. DIs are different than normal meditations because we designed them using a combination of self-hypnosis techniques, deep theta waves, EMDR-informed tools, and somatic experiencing. A fully loaded formula that is scientifically proven to help you clear your blocks and triggers on a subconscious level, giving you the power to actually create new neural pathways in your brain. So if your boss pisses you off, use our Trigger DI. If you want to feel magnetic before a party or an important meeting, use the Magnetic Self DI. If you're feeling anxious or down on yourself or you need help making a decision, we've got a DI for all of these scenarios and more. You can get full access to the Daily Practice inside the Pathway membership, where you'll also get unlimited access to every workshop, tool, and offering from TBM. The tools in the Pathway membership will support you year-round, whether you're in the worst, a rock bottom, or second worst, a rut, or feeling good and you want to keep the magnetism going. In the Pathway, you'll effectively learn how to become your own manifestation coach, all for less than $1 a day. So even if you're not ready to start a workshop, join the Pathway and start rewriting your neural pathways now to create magnetism. Work through your triggers and get closer to your authentic magnetic self in order to manifest. Use our special code MAGNETIC, all caps, MAGNETIC, to receive $20 off your first TBM purchase. Again, that's all caps, MAGNETIC. Now back to the episode.
Hello, fellow TBMers. I have been doing TBM and a Pathway membership since June of 2023, and this is my third challenge. And this summer challenge was really helpful because, as other people have shared, I thought that I was trying to unblock a perception of worthiness, but really it was that if I'm not worthy, if I'm not enough, if I'm not striving and excellent, then I'll actually be abandoned. So I was unblocking my fear of abandonment, not necessarily how worthy I felt, although they're really intertwined. And one of the ways that this shows up for me is in the way that I calculate how much I think people owe me. So I think I do a kind gesture by grabbing lunch or a coffee or a round of drinks, but then in my mind, I'm wondering when they're going to have my back or when they're going to pay me back.
This is such a good takeaway. So many times people can see their generosity as how they people please. They are so generous, they're so kind, they're so giving. But how much of it is contingent upon maintaining that concept and idea of self, and how much is it from a place of I'm giving so you can then connect back to me so I'm not abandoned. I have a friend who actually has a very similar block, and so many times she overgives. If it's someone's birthday or holiday, she'll go above and beyond, and she'll get all of these amazing things and think so outside the box and just give. And if she doesn't receive back that same gift giving energy, or if she doesn't receive connection on the other side through the means of someone calling her back or connecting in person to just thank her so much for everything that she's done, there's this feeling of rejection. And in a way, she's not giving from a truly authentic, loving place. She's giving from a place of, I'm going to make you feel so special so you can then return that favor to me, so you can make me feel so special. And it's a very smart coping mechanism. Our inner child's very intelligent in trying to get its needs met. It's a really, really, thoughtful way of trying to get our needs met. But what would be more empathetic, what would be more loving, more giving, is directly to ask for what you need. Instead of doing that gesture because you're hoping to get something back, can you give that kind gesture from a place of non-attachment, not receiving anything back? And if you are craving that connection or that love or that admiration from someone else, can you ask for it directly? Say, hey, I'm feeling super lonely this week. Is there any way we can grab coffee or connect? Or, hey, I could use a pick-me-up right now. Is there any way that we can chat on the phone for FaceTime? Or even better, can you put on the validation DI? Can you put on the inner child DI and start to connect with yourself before you seek that connection out from someone else? I think this is a great lesson in not only attuning to our own internal needs first, but also asking for our needs directly instead of trying to get them met in some sort of backward way that often leaves us resentful at the end. Kudos to you for finding this connection. I think it is like a really tricky one to even witness and navigate, but you are doing amazing work.
And I've always struggled when Lacey and Jessica are talking about the love-money connection because I've been married for 13 years. We've been together for 15 with my partner, and he's so supportive, and we have a very strong relationship. So I've been like, what's this love-money connection? And I realized that it was showing up in my other relationships, in how transactional I was treating it. So that was one of the things. I want to be more generous and think a little bit more abundantly. And I had the opportunity to really pass a test. And so I wanted to share that in early July of 2024, when all of the flights were delayed, I was about to miss a flight to New York to do some consulting work where I would have earned $3,000. And there were no flights going out. Everybody was trying to help, but it was getting really desperate. And the gate agent said, "Oh my gosh, a ticket opened up. It's $489. If I were you, I would just buy it and hope you get reimbursed in the future." And plot twist, I have no idea if I'm going to get reimbursed. But what happened in that moment is I decided to take my credit card out, invest $489 in myself so that I could go make the $3,000. And I felt really calm and grounded. And if you know me, that was, just such an edge. So I purchased that. And then ever since, everything just became better. I got my flight in earlier. I was making friends with gate agents and fellow passengers and just having a really joyful time in a kind of not awesome situation. And then I went on a trip and was really present and not calculating all the dollars I was spending, and instead was just thinking about treating others and treating myself well. And while I was on that trip, I got an email that a clerical error that had been made, that had been stressing me out for so long, was finally fixed, and that I would be receiving $27,000 that I had earned, but that was, quote, lost. It's a long story, but just sharing that as soon as I dropped the rope and said, you know what? What's enough money? I don't know, but enough is enough. And I'm able to pay all of my bills. Let me let go of it. And then more came in and through. And so this isn't about necessarily how much money. I know those are big numbers. But I'm just sharing that that's how stressed out I was. I had the opportunity to lose $3,000 or lose $27,000. And instead of consternating so much about how I'd get them or earn them or fix it, I kept doing the trust DI. I kept doing the validation DI. I kept letting it go, and it all turned out okay in the end. And I know that that doesn't always mean that more money will be pouring or from the skies, but in this instance, it did work, and it just gave me a little nudge of being in the present moment and investing in me. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that something here helped you, and good luck on your journey. Keep going.
I love this one because it is such a good example of that love-money connection. So how you think about one and where it plagues you is often mirroring to you how it is affecting the other. And no, it doesn't have to be romantic relationship to career. It could be friendship relationship or family relationship, even self-love relationship to career, money, home, etc. So one of her core wounds has to do with abandonment, abandoning of self, people abandoning her, money abandoning her. So if we look at how she's connecting to friends and how she's connecting to money, both of them are from a place of almost hypervigilant. And I would argue, if you look at attachment styles, she leans more anxiously attached to how she's connecting to friends and how she's connecting to money. And so you can see how when she's like, okay, I want to become more generous. I want to give from a place of actually wanting to give and not from a place of contingency. Well, part of being able to do that is understanding how to give and spend money on yourself from a place of non-contingency. So when it came time to spend that $489 on a flight ticket, which you wouldn't necessarily do, there was probably a ton of fear that arose of like, well, I'm not going to get this back. Should I be spending this money on myself? Oh my gosh, this is a guess, or this is an assumption rather, but I would assume that there was probably another narrative there playing out as well, which is if I spend this money to come to this event and I'm not reimbursed, there might be a feeling of feeling taken advantage of. That is another thought pattern that I would just look at if you find yourself anxiously attached to money in some way, that the rug's going to get pulled out from under you. You're getting the short end of the stick. You need to be on top of all of this so someone doesn't try to take advantage or pull a fast one on you, or the universe doesn't pull a fast one on you. You know, it's like that relationship. And when she was able to pass that test and say, you know what? My old patterning would be to spin out over this, would be to not spend it until I was guaranteed to have it back. But look how much difficulty that would cause in her life, right? She got in on the flight early. She made friends with everyone there because she was able to take that flight. She stepped through the fear, purchased the flight for herself, and it came back beyond tenfold. Not only the $3,000 worked out with the consulting job, but this $27,000. And again, like she said, it's not that you spend money on yourself and it drops out of the sky. It's how you're relating to the money being spent on yourself. So for her, stepping through fear and spending money on herself where she typically would have done the opposite, where she would have strong-armed it or not spent that money, the medicine was to spend it. And thus it shows her, look, when you loosen the reins on that flow, that exchange of money, more can come through. You are taken care of. You will never be abandoned, not by the universe, not by money, not by friends. You are good, but you have to see it first. It is the invitation for you to see it first.
Hello, my name is Jordan. I have been doing TBM since February of 2023. And my manifestation list had a few big things on it, but the biggest one since I started really was to get a new job that felt aligned to me. I work as a project manager in marketing, and I was just in not a great situation in my last position. And I wanted to work remotely. I wanted to have supportive, ethical leadership and a really great team just doing good work and have more flexibility in my days. So it meant a lot to me. It was a big life shift being able to work remotely full time. My biggest block was that I don't have what it takes. It's something I've struggled with throughout my whole life. And I overcame it through doing the TBM work.
This is also another really common block. I don't have what it takes. One of the ways I really like debunking this one is reminding yourself and your parts and your inner child that you are resilient and capable of learning how to have what it takes. So oftentimes we think if we're not just blessed with the talent to do something, or we don't automatically have the skill set, that we can never learn. It's like our inner child forgets that we can teach ourselves something new at any time, at any chapter, at any age. So if you find yourself faced with the block of, I don't have what it takes, know that you can go in and teach yourself how to grow in any way, shape, and form. This is so, so key and so important to remember and remind yourself that it's possible to learn. No, you may not have that skill right now. And I trust myself to find the methods and way to learn, to figure out how to get it done. I don't have what it takes is a fixed mindset. It's closed. It's no opportunity for growth. But that is not the case. We have seen, especially during this episode, and we've heard many times on this podcast, people grow, change, and evolve all the time. So find one way that you've grown over the last year to debunk that belief that you can't learn what it takes, and show yourself that you do have what it takes. Because all you need to have what it takes is the ability and the willingness to learn.
Also, there was some other smaller blocks that were related to this that I worked through first, which included that I belong and also that I am good enough. So I worked through those first. And I also did this work alongside an EMDR therapist who's really, really great. And so doing the challenge and also working through that block with my therapist really supercharged everything during this process. And just a few weeks into the summer challenge, I had been applying to a bunch of jobs and I didn't hear anything back. I feel like it was definitely turning into like a magic dark situation. So I was doing the work and didn't hear anything for a long time. And then I surrendered. And I was like, all right, I give up. Like, I'm just going to try to make the most of my situation. And I kid you not, 2 days after that, I got an email from who is now my current employer asking me for an interview. And everything just went really well through the interview process. And it felt seamless and easy. And I could tell that it was the right thing that had come through finally, and very excited about it. And still worked on some surrender through that process. But now I have incorporated into my daily kind of thought patterns whenever something is feeling difficult, and especially starting this new job, that I have what it takes. I have what it takes to get through it, no matter what it is. So that's been a huge shift. In general, I'm amazed now by this new job. I've been here just for a week and a half, but I was glowing last week about how much of a fit it is for me and how it all came through and just how happy I am that I stuck with it. And so that would be definitely my advice for other people too, to just stick with it and know that everything will happen in the right timing and things will fall into place in weird ways that you never could have imagined. And make sure to love yourself in the process. Just be graceful and gentle with yourself too, and know when it's a good time to take breaks from the work and rest, but stick with it and just know that everything really is always working out for you.
That part, that last segment, so key. Play it on repeat. If you are someone who is in the magic dark, everything will happen in the right timing. Things will fall into place in weird ways you could have never imagined, always serving your highest good, and make sure you love yourself in the process. You can take breaks where you need to, but stick with it. Keep coming back, showing up for yourself, knowing that you are so worth it, so capable to get through it. That's one thing with the magic dark that you can only really know by being on the other side of it. I've been in a magic dark many of times. And when I'm in it, it feels like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. Like I want to bang my head against a wall. Like, where is this thing? I don't know what else to do. And then once it comes through, you're like, oh, I get why it took me that long for it to come through, or I understand why this had to line up like this and it had to work in that perfect way. There are more lessons I learned in the journey, or that job wasn't even available until then, or even the ping I'm going through now with manifesting our next home. Literally got the ping probably in May. Your home will not be on the market until the fall. And I've looked, I'm still looking, finding expander spots, but in the back of my mind, that ping was there. And it just felt like that nod from the universe to be like, relax. The timing will come in its own perfect alignment. It will be exactly what you need to nourish your soul. Just trust, have faith, show up for yourself, love yourself, and don't put that manifestation on a pedestal. If it hasn't come through yet, it will come through. Keep showing up for yourself and enjoy the now. Enjoy this in-between phase. You are learning lessons, you are growing, you are evolving, you are deepening and enriching your soul. Think about all of those things that are happening in that in-between. More than anything, just go out and enjoy your life. Have those moments of joy, clock them in your body. That's part of building your manifestation trust muscle too. I can have moments of joy. I can have moments of feeling really magnetic and juicy and alive. Tap into that energy, if for nothing else than just to know that you deserve to experience joy. Okay, I hope you guys enjoy this episode and have a great week. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I did and we did, and are feeling so expanded and motivated. Really allow those stories to sink in and know that it is so possible for you as well. I want to say a huge thank you and gratitude for everyone who submitted their stories, for everyone who shared their stories today on this episode, and for all the thousands of testimonials that we received around this as well. I wish we could share all of them on this episode. But for the sake of time, I'm glad that we were able to dive into the ones we were today. Thank you guys so much for submitting. It really does change people's lives when they can hear what other people in the community are going through. That's how I learned the best, and that's how so many of you are learning the best, by all these different types of expanders navigating different situations. So thank you so much for submitting. And if you have an expander story or something that you want to share on the podcast, perhaps in an intro or another episode similar to this, go to www.speakpipe.com/theexpandedpodcast, or check out our show notes where you can submit a little testimonial for us. Obviously, you can also apply to a process episode as well. Thank you guys so much. We love this community. We're so honored to connect with you and celebrate with you and just witness all of the beautiful healing and manifestations that are taking place. Also, in case you didn't know, we have a TBM newsletter. If you click the link in the show notes, you can join our newsletter. They drop usually on Mondays, and we share recent TBM tips and testimonial stories. So if you are looking for even more expansion or learning more about this process, join our free newsletter for weekly tips about manifestation.